everyone. This is Brent Holtman, and this is the Time for Profit podcast. I'm the principal of Kairos Profit Coach, and small businesses hire me to help them double and triple their revenue using low-cost and no-cost strategies. I'm also the host of the Time for Profit podcast. Today, I have Siobhan O'Leary from Aubergine Partners. And welcome, Siobhan. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. Before we get started, if you would please share with folks how they can get in touch with you if they want to have some more conversation.
Yeah, great. Brent, thanks so much for having me. Sure, anybody can find me on my website, which is aubergine-partners.com, or my email is siobhan@aubergine-partners.com. I'd love to hear from people.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, as we get started today, I try to have a lot of different kinds of guests on the podcast because what I want to do is assure that I'm providing insights, information, and food for thought for business owners and for other coaches to get a sense of what's out there and what are things that we ought to all be aware of that benefits, any business, right? Whether you're coaching folks or whether you're running whatever kind of a business, just to have that awareness of the different resources that are available. And the fact that there's really a lot of resource available, not just for big enterprises, but for small businesses.
Absolutely.
So, Siobhan, with that in mind, in your LinkedIn, you talk about being a people and culture strategist. And I know you've got an interesting backstory. If you would just share a little bit of what is a people and culture strategist and what is it that draws you to that work for businesses?
Yeah, thanks. Well, what I do is help small companies, growth companies, or transitioning companies with their people strategies so that they can meet their business results. And I got into this, my background is in human resources, predominantly in the hospitality space, but I've done work now across many different industries. I started out my career in luxury hospitality with companies like Four Seasons, Rosewood, New York at the Carlyle, and I've worked in open hotels all over the world. And then when worked for Rosewood Corporate, when they sold the company, I ended up doing something I always wanted to do, which was get into executive coaching. And so then I started consulting, and I had the opportunity to work with a startup company in New York doing workplace hospitality. And in life, it's a gift. If you get to create something that's always been in your mind, exactly how you want it, and realize you were right. And it was working with these founders to create a people platform steeped in values and culture that really drove business results. And we did it, and we proved it over and over for 6 years. We went from 32 employees to 1,000 in 2 locations to 32 locations internationally in 6 years. And we had less than 9% turnover, and it was really because of the strategies we put in place for the growth of the business, and the growth depended on the people that we were at every level in the organization. And so when I say I'm a people strategist, we look at the business and what we want to achieve for the business, how we want to grow it. The growth means different things for different people and different companies. It could mean revenue growth, it could mean geographic growth, it could mean different service lines. And so we look at what is their definition of growth and how they're going to measure success. And then we back into it. Do we have the right people in the right seats on the bus to make that happen? And it's not necessarily people. Sometimes it's competencies and how we're structuring those jobs and how we're leading those people and leading those verticals. So, and at what time do we pull what lever of hiring a specific competency? It might be eminently important to hire that CFO right away, or maybe, we need only a director of finance at this juncture, and we'll need the CFO in 2 years. So, and that's generally the case with startups and growth companies. You're figuring out when you need those skills. And then, most importantly is, how is everybody going to work together to be successful together? Are we hearing each other and how we hear information to make our business run? Because we all hear things differently. And so then we work on that. So a part of our strategy is leadership behaviors to drive successful conversations that build the business.
Excellent. And Siobhan, I appreciate everything you said, but several things really stood out because in my book, Time for Profit, which by the way is a free download off of Kairos Profit Coach website if anyone wants it, I talk about different aspects of some of what you talked about there. And I talk about people and having the right people in the right seats in the bus. That's a Collins thing, right?
Right.
So people, processes, having them documented and followed, and then profit is based on a formula of specific things to work on when you're working on your business. So that really resonates for me. And I don't get into the details of the people part of it myself because I don't have your background. One of the things I was intrigued by that I'd like to hear you talk a little bit more about is everybody knows workplace, but workplace hospitality. I've never heard that until I started talking about it.
So this particular company it's funny because that term has really bloomed in the last 15 years. This particular company was convened. They had gone into commercial office buildings in New York in 2008 when, people were giving back real estate. And when companies were giving back real estate, they were giving back public spaces, conference rooms they were renting, for example. And, because that was a time when they were trimming down, right? So, and we, as Convene, they went in and took over leases and leased out large 15,000, 20,000 square feet to create conference spaces that we had culinary teams. And so it was designed so that the space could be used by the people in the building or outside tenants and for different meetings. And it was state of the art. It was very design forward. We had a design strategist on the team that helped design the spaces. And we had a huge culinary team. So the food offering was very forward thinking. And that was how that started. It was this hospitality factor in commercial real estate serving tenants in the building. And that, then it moved into workplace. So then we had workplace, which, people know it's on the map because of WeWork and now different shared workspaces. So now what we're seeing blow up is in the hospitality sector is law firms, healthcare, accounting firms. They all want an element in their working environment, especially now that they're trying to get people back into offices that exhibit a hospitality factor so people want to be there. What are we offering people through this hospitality mindset and this feeling of getting a service in your workspace? So there's that. And the other way we're seeing workplace hospitality come into effect is the mindset that people want their environments to have a hospitality mindset. They want people to be hospitable to each other. Like everyone is your client, your coworker is your client, your coworker is your customer, and in our world, your coworker is your guest, right? Everyone that walks into your office is a guest in your office. So how do we get people in industries? For example, do a lot of work with some accounting firms and hedge funds and different foundations, and even doing some work with a fabulous preschool in Brooklyn called Purple Crayon right now. And they specifically came to me because they want to grow, and they want to grow steeped in this hospitality mindset because they want the families that are bringing their kids there or to have that mindset. And so it's fascinating how that competency has become real in so many businesses outside of what we would traditionally think of as hotels and restaurants.
You bet. Yeah, that's fascinating. So I imagine, and it sounds to me, based on what you were just saying, that this could really be beneficial to any number of different industries and different kinds of businesses, different sizes and all that. But if somebody is curious, is there, other than just reaching out to you, is there kind of a thought process of considering, I don't know, is this for me, for a business?
What do you mean? Is having
Well,
hospitality mindset important in my business?
yeah, thank you for translating. That's what I was trying to ask.
Look, I think we have to be hospitable to everyone, right? And I think the question is it for me? That's a great question. And it's really about, is it really going to help my business be successful or help my people, help me retain talent? And so the answer is yes, of course it is. It's how, and so the next question that that person should ask themselves is, well, can they take that they, meaning me or whomever you hire to bring in and talk about it, can we take that concept and make it applicable in our language in our company so that we can really live like that? Because at the end of the day, we don't want inspirational junk food. Brent, what we do is we go in and we figure out, well, what are you doing? What have you done before? What's your language? And then how do we take that and help you either enhance it or bring it to life in a way that we can implement this hospitality mindset into what you've already done? Because if we're not building on what companies have done, then it's just the flavor of the month. And then people go sit through a session and they walk out and go, that was a great way to get paid today. And we definitely don't want that, right? And to be really candid about how we work is we really work at the root of the company values. We believe that values drive behaviors that create cultures, and we love to work with companies that want to activate their values into all of their decision making, and that really forwards the hospitality mindset, or it becomes a core component of it. And so we also believe that simplicity is the way to keep things going. So, we're not going to create a new system or process for you. We're going to take your current processes and figure out, well, how can we adapt this language into it? Or how are you using it and how can you use it better? And earlier you talked about process, and I wanted to come back to that because years ago somebody said to me, and I was the people person, right? And somebody said, it was a seminar I went to, and the speaker said, what do you think makes a business more successful, if they have A players in a B process, or if they have a B players in an A process? And of course, I was adamant that it was people, people. And I was wrong. And, people strategies are important, but part of those strategies is, how are you running your processes? And if it requires change management, well, let's do that. If it requires, are you living your values to drive that process? Whatever that is, if you don't have the right process in place, even your best people won't be successful. They won't be driving what you want. And so I loved that I got schooled on that really fast. And I love that it's become kind of my own DNA, because I'm definitely, a right brain thinker, and I've challenged myself to be more process oriented, even in my own life. So anyway, just wanted to come back to that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great story, and it makes me smile because the belief that I hold is if you want to really have an A team, you set everybody up for success. And what you were just describing is a key element of that, right? Where people don't have to all be A players to have a good system that supports them. They'll rise to the occasion, and it's sustainable for everybody, including people that are already A level, right?
Right. The other thing is that people get afraid of process because they want the environment to feel good, or we want to protect what we've done in the past because people joined us and they're here for so long because of X, Y, and Z. So we want systems that don't feel like a system when it comes to people things, right? For recognition programs, performance reviews, the things that are really personal to people. We want them to feel genuine and authentic. So we want it to be a system that doesn't feel like a system, but can actually sustain life in the organization. And so there's definitely things that you have nuances to put those in place too. And that also goes back to the values.
So to wrap things up today, Siobhan, what would you want people to have as the number one takeaway from the things that you've shared today?
I think the number one takeaway, I'm going to have to say three things. Number, your values matter no matter what. So if you're running an organization and you don't think values matter, please call me because I want to debate that until I'm blue in the face. The second thing is that we can, we work with companies to work on outputs and outcomes, and we do it through this processes and through the people strategies. And the last thing I would say is that all of that is great, and the only way to sustain things you implement in your company is through a coach-centric mindset, so that you're constantly, you and your leaders, you're either having outside coaches help them, or you're training people and your leaders to be coach-centric, so that they're constantly reinforcing and help. We all need coaching, right? We all need it. And so how do you want to get that done? And that's how you sustain all of your own secret sauce and what change you implement.
Love that. Yeah, I would agree. Everyone needs coaches. I coach, but I have coaches.
Yeah, likewise.
Brilliant. So, Siobhan, thank you very much. I have no doubt this is going to be valuable for everybody. So, for everybody that watched this, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you on the next Time for Profit podcast.
Great.